Welcome everybody to the second part of this tutorial series where we are redesigning this website belonging to Mint MVP. Now, last time we have finished creating the nav bar, but today we're going to be focusing more on the hero section. And the hero section is actually one of the most important, if not the most important part of any landing page because it's the first connection your user will have with your website, and that will either make the user excited and want to look at your website more, or it will turn him off and just bounce off of your website. We're going to be trying to take this AI generated hero section, which is very generic and it doesn't really have much of a special recognition for the brand, and we're just going to try to make it as good, as well designed as possible, and we're going to try to improve it overall. Now you can see we have another page here called assets, which is a new page where I'm storing some of my assets that I'm going to be using for this website redesign. You can just grab the link from the description down below of this Figma file and just follow along with me if you want, or you can use your own assets if you want. Okay, let's start. Where do we start? I always like to start from the header. Now, the header says build your MVP fast, affordable, and easy. One thing I always make a note of in headers is that I don't really like to use like commas and end here. I know there are some exceptions, but I don't really like to use them. I like when the headers are just a couple of words, but they transfer your IPR quite clearly. So we're going to be trying to change the header here. Now here we have this icon, which has a cool little rotation when we hover over it, but it's really not well done with the extra space here and it feels out of place. So let's actually just take out our text here, and it's currently on intro, we're going to be changing it. Let's just write the best way to build your MVP. Okay, great. So this will be our header text, but the difference here would be that we're going to be using Bebas New, which is one of my favorite fonts. And I think for this purpose, for the purpose of this website, this could work very nicely. I'm just going to make this lighter, just to make it easier to see the nav bar here. So now at this point, we can just make it bigger. I'm going to go with around 96 and an 81% line height, meaning most of the space here will be removed. When we go 128, that's probably too much. I'm gonna go stick with 96, and let's actually just go something like this here. And what I'm gonna do in this case is I'm gonna take the last part here, and I'm just gonna change this color to be our brand color here. And I'm gonna cut it off from here. Okay, great. Then I'm gonna just paste it here. So now we have these two parts separated, and it's a cool effect where we can first let's align them together, and now I'm gonna move this to the side here and up a bit just to create some overlapping, and we are breaking out from the boring layouts here, which is the primary core, the primary of the idea of the course, right? To create something that is not replicatable by AI and that is unique and special, and doesn't use the default AI template. Great, so we're just going to be taking these two part, Control G. This will be the headline or the hero section. Great, at this point we can continue into the description, and for the description this will work, this will do. I'm just going to copy it and I'm just going to go here, paste. I'm just going to add a period at the end here. And if we look at it, this is obviously not the description, so we have to make it one by just reducing the size. I'm going to go with around 16 pixels and changing the font to be a body text, which is, as we agreed last time, will be Helvetica, which looks much nicer at this point. And I'm just going to change this actually. I'm going to say AI. You want to make sure your type is very, very well done because people will spend much of their time reading your content instead of actually watching a video or looking at an image. So you want to make sure your content is properly spelled and properly punctuated. And at this point, I'm just going to reduce the opacity here. Not opacity, but the fill. I'm going to reduce the a visual hierarchy, just to make it less visible, not less visible in terms of contrast, but less visible in terms of visual hierarchy. I want this to be the focus point, and I want this to be some supporting text. I don't want it to be this slide though, so I'm just gonna go ahead. Something like this I think would work very nicely, and I just want to reduce the space. I want it to be 2 lines, which will work quite nicely. And the line height, I will return it to the auto. Great, so we have our text here. We want to continue with our call to actions. Obviously, you can see that we have 2 call to actions here, and I really like the style of the button. So just going to be doing the same thing, but making it a bit more different. One thing I want to do is I want to bring the sign up button here, because I want the user to see sign up before watching anything else. So let's start from the sign up button. Instead of sign up, I'm going to say get started, which is a convention that I like to use where the hero call to action is more vibrant in its calling. Like sign up is fine, it's great, it works. But if you say get started, that's an immediate action. That's something like charismatic and that's more eye catching, right? So we're going to be using that here. Now for this, I'm just going to go back to assets. You can see I have some icons here. So I'm just going to copy this. You can obviously get it from the design file, which will be shared in the description down below. As I told you before, I'm just going to paste it right here. Let's get it back here, and I'm going to go Shift A, put it inside of a frame, and I'm just going to say icon container here. Container, if I can spell correctly. No gap. But this container would center align its content, and this would be around 36 by 36. So it would be circular, and I'm gonna go with 999. That is full circle border radius, and I'm gonna apply a white fill, purely white. Okay, great. At this point, I want there to be some separation, so I'm gonna go with 8 pixel difference here, which looks very nice and creates this amazing looking button. One thing I forgot actually is I want to go back here to the fill, and I want to go down a bit. I'm using the down arrows for this, and I want to go a bit down here so that the background currently is not just full white, as you can see from the difference here, but it's not dark either. I want it to be a light theme website, but I think a background which is sort of a gray like this would be much easier on the eyes. Okay, great. So we can continue here, and we can go to the login. And what I'm actually going to do, I'm just going to duplicate this and delete this. I'm going to change this to be the secondary. And this time, what other call to action should we have here? Now, the user might want extra information, so I'm just going to say watch video. This is a very common secondary call to action that people really like to use. If you have an explainer video, especially, this would be much easier for the user to watch an explainer video. So it's a handy button to have here. At this point, we can just go ahead and change the fill to be white, and let's actually give it a stroke since we want some separation. And I'm just going to make this stroke very light, around easy writing, right? Around this, which creates enough separation, but it doesn't really take away from the visual hierarchy that we are setting up all around here. So I want to go with full black for the text. While going here, I want to go maybe 111 here for the container of the icon container here. And I think if we go like this, that will work much nicer. But you can see like there's an arrow here and here. I would like to use a more descriptive icon, so I'm just going to copy this video icon, which I already set up for you, and I'm just gonna Control Shift R, which is paste and replace shortcut in Figma, and that looks very nice at the point. Okay, at the moment. Let's now take these two here and group them, Shift A. And at this point, we can just rename this to be content. Probably it's more of content than the headline. So let's go with content and center line it's auto, and we can just go right here. And from this, I want to go around 24 pixel difference. We need enough white space for this to work, right? We need this to be uh open. We don't want it to be cluttered. So that's the reason. And I just want to actually just uh actually the way I want to do it here is I want to group these two. This centering, it could work, but I don't think it's the best implementation for this. Instead, I want there to be, okay, the way I'm going to do is I'm going to select these two. Let's ungroup this first, and I want to select these two, and I'm going to make a frame selection. Now the frame should be basically just to this point. Right, so now when we center it, it is centered around this box, and this is like sticking out, right? So that's the way I want to do it. The reason for that being, if I go full like this, and if I center it, this is no longer the central focus point. This text is not the central focus point. It's just centered on this axis, which is not the way I want to have it. So we're just going to be returning it, and actually we want to align it to the left here, and let's take this point to be the central axis. This is the central focus point, right? So this will be just something budding out. So at this point, if we center it, we are centering it around this point, and this is obviously an extension. So these are the primary parts which will have a higher level of visual hierarchy. So this is something a bit hard to explain, but hopefully it's clear. Again, if you have any questions all throughout this course or any video of mine, you can feel free to ask it down below in the description. But the point here is that we want the high visual hierarchy elements to be at the center. While you can see on this website, there isn't a really high visual hierarchy element. Everything is white, as you can see here. Everything is white. There is this blue color, but is it really from everything here? Is this the highest visual hierarchy element? Easily, is it the text that we want to stand out? I think the one that we want to stand out is the button, which is fully white here and doesn't make sense. But in our case, it's very styled and it is obviously very visible. Okay, so since we have centered it, let's call this the content of the hero section, and let's rename this to be the bottom parts, and this will be the headline. Okay, great. Let's just collapse everything first. I want to take the navbar to the top. Now we're in a good position here currently, but we do need a couple of more things. The thing we want the most is actually a case study, a visual case study. Now, they have something like that here, where they are showing their work, but I think the best way of doing it is to show it straight in the hero section, because as we said earlier, the primary idea of a hero section is to get the user intrigued and excited so that the user will scroll down and just watch or look at and experience the rest of the UI. So I think I just created here an asset. This was one of my previous works, and I just styled it for you. You don't really need to know anything about this design. Let's just consider this design being part of the Mint MVP portfolio, right? You don't have to know anything about this design again. Just feel free to copy it down from the assets page and just get it into your design. Okay, by the way, before we continue, some of you have been requesting access to this file, and I can't really give you access to edit it because obviously we need to have a constant maintained file for everybody that wants to join the course. But the way you can do it here is, I think you can go here and you can say file, and you can either save a local copy, or you can actually, uh, I think you can duplicate it if I'm not wrong here. I think there is an option to duplicate the file. I'm not sure where it was here. Uh, like for any file, here's the main MVP file, for example, in my uh like drafts here, and mm, okay, yeah, you can right click and duplicate it, and the duplicated one you would have full access to. So that's the way you have to do it. Great. So we're just going to continue here, and I want this to be sticking out of the hero section. Just to create intrigue. This is actually a very powerful mechanism that we started using in the web design industry years and years ago. Just make some part of your UI stick out. In that way, like people would want to scroll more to see more of the work and be uh and would have more of the information here. Let's start her here. So yeah, so we want to take these two parts, Shift A, center it. So I want to go with 64 pixels gap here, and I want to take this up into 72 pixels from the top of the header. Now let's center it. You see now it is centered, and that's very good currently. So we obviously have a very clear visual hierarchy at this point. Obviously, this image taking center point, while this header being the second, then followed by this button and these two elements right here. Probably the watch now button would perform better, and finally the text. Great. So at this point, our website is definitely almost finished here. This is the main part of the hero section. But in reality, what we want to do is we want to take more inspiration from this. And I really like the grid system here that they're using on the background. But I don't think it's well done, and it's kind of boring a bit. So I tried to find some 3D perspective grids, and I have it down below in the assets as always. So I'm just going to copy this. Here, for this to work, you have to make sure that the background color is not white, since it is completely invisible on white. So that's one reason we needed to change the background color to be a dimmer version. So I'm just going to paste it here. I've resized it already so that you don't have to really, it's sometimes annoying to deal with these perspective grids. So I've made some changes so it makes it easier. So I'm just going to put it at the bottom, and I'm just going to go a bit down here. So there's part of it sticking out. Not that much maybe. Yeah, around this much. So I want to go back down so that it is behind the content, as you can see here. This is very nice. And finally, I want to duplicate this, and I want to go up here, and I want to hold Shift and H. Actually, not Shift and A, Shift and V to flip it vertically. Great. So now I want to center it and place it at the top again and move it up. Great. So 3D perspective top, 3D perspective bottom. And I'm going to group these two into the accents. Great. So now we can take these two elements here, Control G, and this will be our hero. And actually, we can just make it into a frame selection. Okay, hero section. Now I want to put it down below. Now, before we finish off today's episode of this series, I want to talk a bit about these grids. So some people might think that these grids are just there for looks, and that's not the case here. They serve a purpose. One is your brand, so you can build your brand like from accents like this, right? The second, and in this case, uh, a very important thing to know is that these grids are perspective and they are pushing the user's view or eyes to the center. And at the center, we have already positioned our content, right? So you can see how this is working. The perspective grids are all going towards the central focus point, and our content is towards there. Now, it would have been the same pretty much if it wasn't there. The user would still see the content, but this just adds more attention to the content, and it just looks good and makes the background not boring. Also, there's a very fun and very unique design here, which makes it stand out massively from just irregular dark theme and blue with purple gradient websites here made by AI. One thing I want to finish off with is when you use frames, you always want to make sure that you are cutting it. So I want the hero section to be up to this point. Now notice that I'm holding control on my keyboard. So when I resize, it doesn't resize anything with it. When I hold control, it's for cutting. Great. So at this point, we are completely done. Again, thanks you for watching. Really hope you're enjoying this series so far. I'm really having fun designing this website. It looks really good currently. Where we continue with other sections in the upcoming videos. Thanks for watching again. Till next time. Goodbye.